Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again. If you're new here, hi, my name is Cici. If you're not new, you know that I'm trying to combine my love for reading and traveling. So when I started traveling again this year, I asked for some things that you want to see from me, and one idea was to make a tag video out of all the beautiful places that I travel to. So that's what we're doing today. A little disclaimer, these tag videos are full of cliches. They're full of very things that this region where we're traveling to is famous for. So take it with a grain of salt. I didn't cover every cliche. Obviously, I know that not everybody living in that city is that way. It's just a tag video full of wonderful cliches. If you're watching this, already consider yourself tagged. I would love for you to do this, but I'm going to have some very specific nominations at the end. So let's travel to Rome and find some cliches that we want to get book recommendations for. Let's go! Vatican. Choose a book with a religious theme or gods or something that just gave you faith. For this one, I have picked Once Upon an Eid. It's a wonderful collection of short stories centered around Eid, celebrating Eid, Ramadan, just the Islamic religion in general in some cases, but all centered around different ways, different cultures, and different types of Muslims are celebrating this religious fest. It's a middle grade. It has 15 different Muslim voices and they all are so diverse. I can totally recommend this if you want to learn a little bit more about Ramadan and celebrating Eid, or if you are a Muslim and you want just something to connect to or read to your kids or whatever. It's a wonderful, cute book. Espresso, a book that keeps you up at night. For this I have Recursion by Blake Crouch. This one literally kept me up on my drive to Switzerland. This was so good and so gripping. We are in this world. It's like near future and we have this weird illness that some people are somehow falling ill to, where all of a sudden they wake up and they feel like they have a different memory than what's reality. So a completely separate memory, additional to their own memory of a completely separate life they obviously haven't lived. So somebody could wake up and they are a successful career woman who is single and concentrating on her career, and all of a sudden she wakes up and vividly remembers that she is married, has a child, and lives in suburbia, and she also remembers never being married, never having a child, moving to New York and being a lawyer or something. So all of a sudden they have two different memories, and that's a very, very weird sickness. And in this book we're following two protagonists who are uncovering what's behind this illness. It is really interesting and I found it to be gripping in a way that I just wanted to know where this was going, how this was ending. Some of it was kind of predictable, but it didn't make it less gripping and not wanting to sleep before it's over. The Spanish Steps, a translated work. For this I have Das Perfume by Zeuskind. It's translated into English, so that's why it counts as a translated work. I read it in the original language, but because this is an English-speaking channel, I do believe it's considered translated if we have an English translation for it. This Perfume is quite a classic. It's a portrayal of a murder. We're following this young boy who has heightened senses and is the perfect perfume creator, and then he somehow gets very, very obsessed with capturing the essence of things, and he gets then really obsessed with capturing the scent of a young woman. So he becomes a serial killer and we're following him and his mind, and it's a journey, a very interesting journey. If you're into disturbed minds and weird minds and just different books, definitely give it a go. Gelato, a book with a sweet character. So for this I have picked Yolk, even though I'm not sure if this completely, like if one of the characters stands out as sweet. I don't think so, but somehow I got sweet vibes from the combination of the two. This is following two sisters who are quite estranged because they're very, very opposite, but then all of a sudden they connect again, and it turns out that one of the sisters is really sick and they're bonding over some things in there, and they're reconnecting, and throughout this journey the other sister might find out that she might struggle with some health issues herself. There's quite a few trigger warnings for this one. I think that it was also mentioned in the very beginning. No, it was not. Oh yeah. This is a work of fiction that mirrors aspects of my own history, with disordered eating, dysmorphia, and bulimia. For those struggling with body image and food, this story might be emotionally expensive for you. Please be gentle with yourself. Sensitivity is a superpower. And please know that there is no such thing as a bad body. Truly, take up space. It is your birthright. I love this beginning and the connection between the two sisters and how it's all developing. There's just something so sweet about it. I enjoyed this so much.
Vespas, a book where someone travels.
For this, I want to point out the whole Wayfarer series, not necessarily this book. In this book, particularly the fourth book in the series, people aren't traveling as much, but they want to, they're stuck. The whole series is set in a universe, and it is so diverse in terms of the humans are the weird outsiders, but we have so many very, very biologically and culturally different species that I feel like this broadens your horizon and it broadens your perspective. Do not go into the series wanting to have a gripping plot. There is a little bit of a plot line in each of the 4 books, but the plot line is just the background setting for conversations and for social things to happen. The interaction is where this is the meat of the story. Especially in the 4th book, I had the feeling that every single chapter brought up a different aspect of assumptions, of social construct, of morals, and what we think is right and what's expected, to just think about it and review it in our mind. And you just do it without realizing, and I love that in a book so much. The 4 books are very loosely connected, so you can technically read them all separately. The first book is playing on a spaceship and they're traveling to a planet. The second book is on a planet and they're traveling to get out of a certain compound situation, etc. The third book is on a space station. People are traveling to and from. And then the 4th book is on a planet again where people want to travel to and from but are stuck due to something happening, and there's like a lockdown for a while. And that is pretty much the different settings, and they're very loosely connected. There's like 1 or 2 characters that might appear or might be connected to. What I would say is do not read the second book before the first one, because the connection there is quite important. But other than that, you could read the 3rd or the 4th book as a standalone and still enjoy it, I believe. Overall, this world is amazing and I love it and I absolutely recommend it.
Italian Lover, a book that gets your heart racing.
The Last Apothecary definitely got my heart racing while following these 2 women in particular and their journey. This book is basically about a woman who has an apothecary and secretly gives poison to other women who want to poison their husbands to kill them. That's all you gotta know, I feel like. And she has this young little apprentice after a while, and I just loved following this. We also have a second timeline here where in present day somebody is uncovering all of this history. There's a love story in there and a love and disconnect story of sort, about should I stay with him or not, all of these different, it's just a question around relationships and love, and I just felt like that was very fitting for this prompt. But also the historical part of it got my heart racing because I wanted to know like what's happening, are they going to or are they not, and it was really good.
The Colosseo, a book that includes a game, is about a game, or Just makes you think of a game.
For this I have the Rage of Dragons. While not necessarily a real gaming aspect, this just feels right with this prompt because it feels very gladiator-esque, and we do have training games and training games in terms of battles. So I just feel like the vibe that I'm getting when I'm looking at the Colosseum totally is half of this book. I really enjoyed this a lot. This is about this young boy who lives in this very fantastic, I think it is African inspired, I'm not sure if it's based on any mythology, but it's African inspired fantasy world. We have dragons, we have people that can connect and become super beings, and we have this group of people who wants to compete with them. I'm totally explaining this like the worst ever, but what I really liked about this is that our protagonist isn't just the chosen one who is given the gift. He's fighting for it, he's training for it. As if you don't like military fantasy or you don't like a lot of sword fights, this is not for you. But I enjoyed the struggle in this and the human aspect of the relationships between the people. I definitely need to get to the second one soon, so that's for games.
Pizza, a book that satisfies you.
Walk on Earth, a Stranger, probably not everybody's cup of tea, but for me it is absolutely satisfying that certain spark in me. Walk on Earth, a Stranger is a fantasy story that is set on the Oregon Trail. I think it's the Oregon Trail, but it is definitely during the gold rush. And for some reason, I have a very, very particular interest in reading stories somehow revolve around gold rush, around Civil War, but particularly when it's about the journey. I want to read more books about the journey from east to west, heading west, the whole mentality of trying to get there and trying to find a better life, the reasons behind it, and the strenuous story of the journey. I somehow feel a lot of appeal to this strenuous and very, very dangerous journey. I also love through hiking books and that kind of stuff. So if you have good recommendations in that area, please send them my way. And it satisfies me so much because it's just wonderfully written from that aspect. It gives me enough of substance following that without being too historical and being too stiff, and it gives me a little bit of a fantasy aspect without going too out of this world, too swords and dragons. There's it's almost magical realism, but I don't really like magical realism because it oftentimes is a little bit too weird to me. So this is clearly fantasy, but it has this cute, wonderful, magical fantasy aspect, but it still feels like a historical fiction book. The fantasy aspect in here is that our main character can sense gold, which, hello, gold rush, could become very, very interesting.
Ancient Ruins, a book that taught you about history.
For this one, I have Today We Go Home. I really loved this book, and I'm wondering why this, I haven't seen anybody speak about this, I believe. Today We Go Home is set in two different timelines, as some historical fictions sometimes do. It is in Seattle today, and it's following a young female soldier who just comes back. Is it from Afghanistan? Yeah, she came back from Afghanistan, and she feels guilty about something, and she finds a diary from Emily Wilson, who lived in Indiana 1861, and in this diary she uncovers that this woman disguised as a man because she wanted to fight in the Civil War. She wanted to be a soldier, but as women weren't allowed to fight, she disguised as a man to be able to do so. So we have two female soldiers. We have history about the Civil War, and I learned about all these female amazing figures who fought in the Civil War. And this book actually might have sparked my interest in the around 1850 US history that I'm now somehow obsessed with reading about in all these different different kind of aspects. Civil War, Gold Rush, whatever, middle of the 1800s US history somehow is a sweet spot that I just love reading about. And this was the first. So this was kind of my entry drug. I learned a lot about the Civil War from like a female soldier's perspective. And I didn't even know that there were so many who actually did that, and looked into some of the resources after reading this. So that was really interesting. The present timeline also, I believe it's a very good portrayal of PTSD. I don't know because I don't suffer from it, or I don't know anybody who is living with PTSD, but it felt like a really good portrayal of it. And just the combination of these two women, it was one of my favorite books, I think, last year. Caesar and Brutus. So either a book with an alpha male or a book that made you feel betrayed. So for this one, I am elephant, I am butterfly. It is a book about a mental health journey, about focusing on eating disorders. We're following this young girl who is morbidly obese and gets into a fat camp. And I was really looking forward to a well-portrayed morbidly obese character who's struggling with an eating disorder. But I felt severely betrayed because it clearly is a book that was written by a skinny person who I would doubt has ever felt fat or overweight even in her life, and does not know what the struggle and what the psychological aspects of struggling with being overweight in this world are. And she made a lot of mistakes from my perspective that I consider potentially harmful. There's some elements of this book that are written well. I did like the overall writing style, and I do think that the portrayal of the skinny bitches that we're supposed to feel a little bit more empathy for is quite well done, but that's not enough if you're writing from an obese character's perspective. She went into way too many cliches, and I was so ready for a good book representing eating disorder, and I felt very, very, very much betrayed by this one. This is it for today. I'm specifically nominating Anna, Mel, Stephanie, and the Roomies Digest to tackle this wonderful tag where we visited Rome and looked at some of the cliches in Rome. Let me know what city, what country should we tackle next. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up before you leave, and that you leave a comment down below. If you want to support me, the best thing that you can do is check out, I have a list of like a music playlist, 1 hour long videos with different types of music that I use while reading for an hour, or I go on a hike and then I read out in nature. You can pop these videos on and let them play while you read, while you do chores or whatever. If you want to support me, the best that you can do is just play these videos like on loop or whatever. Just enjoy the music with whatever you want to enjoy music for. I have different kinds of music. If you are looking for a specific type of music, I'm happy to find some indie music that I am allowed to use. Just let me know what type of genre you're looking for, and I'm happy to add that. And I hope to see you again on my channel real soon. Until then, bye!
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?